As I'm sure you're aware, Prince William has a documentary out, a new 2-part series titled Prince William, Can End Homelessness, which was actually really good. I watched it, I don't know about you. But the media was, of course, quick to criticize but also draw comparisons to Prince Harry's TV projects, which ended up only highlighting the self-serving, whining screen presence of Harold versus the compassionate, inspiring, and humble screen presence of Prince William. Once again, poor Harry comes out looking sour. Hi everyone, I'm Beebs Kelley. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Please do consider subscribing, click the like button, and leave a comment, only if you would like to. If you don't know what to comment, leave #homewords. It will help support Prince William's project in the ever-mysterious algorithms. So first, before we get into it, let me acknowledge that Disney has clearly chosen sides. If it wasn't obvious already, they have clearly made a choice. The right choice. Remember this guy? Yeah, remember him? He's Bob Iger, the big wig of Disney. One summer, he was just at the premiere of one of his big films when this wee entitled prince sauntered up and startled poor Bob when he punctuated his princely introduction with, Meg does voice work. You should hire her. Mortifying for anyone with a pinch of social awareness, but not for Harold or the Meg. Oh no. This peak cringe moment was unfortunately caught on camera. You can see just how taken aback Bob was. Even removing royal from the equation, if that wasn't a factor, it's just super weird. Even in the business world, you don't pitch that clumsily, Harold. This sort of flagrant proposition is really unbecoming no matter who you are. Prince Harry was far too eager to shove the Meg in his face. Clearly, obviously, there's no other fathomable way this could have happened but with Meg's encouragement or demands. And this stunt surely resulted in some feedback from the monarchy, from palace staff. It's just not the done thing. Can you imagine somebody who is walking around representing the Queen at the time, representing the British monarchy at the time, suggesting you hire someone? You're probably going to feel a fair degree of pressure, which is why it was a big faux pas and very problematic. But how did that go? How did that work out, this business venture Harry thrust upon Disney? Well, not great. Disney graciously agreed to the Meg voicing an elephants documentary, which didn't exactly work out in her favor. Her voice talent really is quite lacking, objectively speaking. She just isn't that pleasant to listen to in the documentary. She sounds really forced, really unnatural. It's clear she's acting and exaggerating. It was just not easy to listen to. I tried listening to a good portion of it for the sake of research for this video, and it just wasn't great. You can imagine, I'm sure, it just was bland and drab and sounded odd. It just sounded really weird. It wasn't like she was telling a story the way you would hope a documentary voiceover would be. I mean, we've heard so many magnificent, really fabulous documentary voiceovers. David Attenborough is one of the best, obviously, in the business. And so that bar is set really, really high. But I mean, the Meg doesn't even come close to it. She's just limp in her delivery. So needless to say, Disney did not invite her back for the second installment of the Elephants documentary, instead replacing the Meg with Natalie Portman, which saw much better performance, and I listened to it, was much more engaging. She did a much better job. Her inflection, her tone was much easier to listen to. It was more captivating. She stimulated interest. It was just a better performance overall, which is not surprising. Natalie Portman is a decorated actress, very good at what she does, and has previous experience with voiceover work and a lot more experience with acting than the Meg does. So clearly just obviously better talent for the job. You can't be good at everything. The Meg just isn't that good at these things. It's not personal, it just is. And to further emphasize the disparity, the performance was way better. Natalie's Elephants documentary did way better than the Megs did. So now we've seen Disney further distance themselves from the sour Sussexes and have featured Prince William's documentary on their platform. Just an interesting side note there. But as for Prince Harry, though, his TV presence has a very clear theme, does it not, at this point? It must be grumpy. It must contain a victim narrative showcasing the ways in which the prince has been hard done by. And it must feature exaggerations, manipulations of the truth, and lies. Harry's TV interviews and projects include he and the Meg's Oprah interview. I'll link for you the Oprah series here. The Netflix one is coming out in a few weeks. He also participated in The Me You Can't See with Oprah, which features mental health subjects. He focuses on his mental health challenges a lot throughout it and the way he deals with things or his therapy and whatnot, I suppose. I haven't watched that one yet. I'll watch it if you guys want after the Netflix series comes out, but I haven't endured that cringe fest just yet. Also did a very combative 60 Minutes interview where he petulantly lied several times and tried to wiggle his way out of responsibility for the Oprah interview. He's done a handful of other shorter interviews and features, if you will. But particularly focusing on just TV or like on-screen presence for the purpose of this discussion, it's clear that even when Harry has an interview about a project or a cause or an event that's really not about him at all, we see him spend the majority of the screen time actually talking about himself. For example, his short TV interviews for Invictus, which he's done a handful of, he's meant to be highlighting the organization. He's meant to be getting people excited to watch it or participate in it or donate to it, motivated to follow this movement of Invictus. But he uses those interviews as opportunities to talk about himself or divulge information about his family from private conversations. He engages the media for interviews to complain about the press on purpose or complain about the media on purpose. A bit hypocritical on the face. Or he invites the media under the guise of talking about Invictus or something else, but instead the takeaway ends up being that Harry is still pissed off at his family and he's still complaining about his family at every opportunity. He never misses a chance to lace in a dig. Like we saw with the Cut interview, which was in print, but I'll link that for you here. No matter how irrelevant the comments are, he cannot help himself. The spite is far too strong. In a shocking contrast, Prince William has made this documentary about ending homelessness, showcasing the work, the plans, and the cause in great detail. Granted, it would have benefited from a catchier title, something like Homewards with Prince William or something like that. Would have been more marketable, probably. But the content itself is really on point. He comes across as motivated, involved, knowledgeable, and capable of communicating the whole of the issue, which really does demonstrate his dedication, the time that he's spent working on it and learning about it. He's not just showing up for the film days and then winging it like Harry does, which is part of why Harry and Meghan so often just repeat the same stories or reference themselves nonstop. Because they're simply not well enough informed on whatever event or initiatives that they're trying to be involved with, leaves them only able to fall back on boring, empty platitudes, repetitive, bland anecdotes, which end up failing and undermine their involvement entirely. When you see Prince Harry on screen, you're left with the impression that he's petulant, vindictive, or vengeful, that he's really spiteful, he's really sour and grumpy, he's still mad about things, he's really whiny, not very kind, not magnanimous, not gracious. He comes off as selfish and self-centered and wallowy. Whereas William, when you come away from that documentary, he comes across as warm, compassionate, friendly, caring, thoughtful, intelligent, mindful of the issue and how he's coming across, non-combative, willing to understand and accept different points of view and criticisms, because he doesn't lash out at criticism of this project or of his aspirations with this project. He's not bothered or At least he's not letting it be known. If he were offended at some of the, people being like, well, you have palaces and you're trying to solve this. I mean, that's a silly argument in and of itself. At least he's trying to use his platform for good and trying to do some good and create some change, regardless of his privilege. But Harry, it seems like, in spite of his privilege, he's just unwilling to make any changes or do anything. So with William, it's clear throughout the two-part series just how much he has actually studied this issue, the projects, and how well he knows the contributing organizations. Beyond that, he's also humble about it. He's not trying to come off as the savior or the knight in shining armor, even consistently and calmly addressing feedback or lame attempts at criticism that he's fully aware this is a collaborative effort, acknowledging the disparity between his privilege and what others lack, anchoring himself to his intention to leverage his resources to implement real-world solutions to this very real problem. He did a really good job in this documentary. It left viewers with a better understanding of what he's actually trying to do with this project, why, and who it's for. What we didn't really get was much of many things about him as a person. The series was largely lacking references to his personal life, with the exception of details involving his mother, Princess Diana, which we'll talk about in a moment. We did, however, despite him not talking about himself hardly at all, we did get a really big takeaway about him as a person. He values this work and he takes it seriously. He's dedicated to this project and has been diligently working to accomplish a series of goals that will help solve this challenging problem of homelessness. Because of this, we're not only left with a feeling of optimism that he shares, but the audience is reassured that Prince William is working to do the right thing here, and he is trying to ensure that this initiative can carry on successfully. We do learn a lot about him throughout this series, with almost no screen time dedicated to him talking about himself. It can be done. The closest we really get to him talking about himself is when he credits his experiences of visiting homeless shelters as a child with his mother, Princess Diana, as what sparked his interest in the matter in the first place. So when we compare, for example, this to Harry and Meghan's CBS interview with Jane Pauley, which I have some videos on, I'll link for you here, the differences are gigantic and very, very obvious. Meg was all too eager to pontificate on mental health and online bullying, but only through the lens of her experience, maintaining focus on her narrative that the fair criticisms she received were bullying, that they led to a mental health crisis, which she's only scratched the surface of, that the majority of it happened while she was pregnant, these sorts of things. The perspective in which these two separate camps use to describe or discuss the issues at hand are completely opposite. Harry and the Meg come from the angle of, we are victims, we know how important this is, we think this should be a priority. I, me, us, we want this to happen. We are behind this issue or movement or what have you. Whereas William comes at this issue from an attitude of collaboration. They focus on the solutions and the opportunities for involvement for all of us. It's an outward-facing frame of mind that feels like a team or a community when he discusses these things. It's really valuable when it comes to actually making change or inspiring people to come together for a cause, because it really does register to the listeners and the viewers as involvement. Everyone can contribute to the solution for this. Not to mention the fact that the entire series is a solutions-based focus and approach. William is coming at this documentary from the perspective of, here are solutions. Let us explain to you how these solutions will help solve this. Whereas the Sussexes take a problem-focused approach, which we've seen fall flat time and time again. Just look at this problem here. Look at that problem there. It's so bad. Yet another contrast comes up in the realm of respect. Because Prince William keeps his private life as private as possible, his opinions and feelings are much more private. He doesn't have the same obstacles that Harry and Meghan have when it comes to public opinion, which really does extend or sort of bleed into everything else. Harry and Meghan's complaining and relatively negative image has really leached into their business and philanthropic endeavors, as minimal as they have been. Even if and when they do something good, it's muddied by their reputations and choices as individuals. So much so that even Archwell or Invictus, for example, are negatively affected simply by Harry and Meghan being linked to it at all. Additionally, Prince William receives respect for what he says on these issues because he's backing it up with action. For example, people respect what he has to say about the environment because of the Earthshot Prize and the work that he does for that. The fact that he flies commercial, especially if he's going to an event for Earthshot for an environmental cause, because he communicates those values through his actions, like wearing eco-friendly clothing, compostable sneakers, taking commercial flights, not having excessive amounts of vehicles follow him around places when he's traveling or when he's going to and fro. He doesn't have 7-car convoys. Earthshot is a well-respected initiative because Prince William, the face of it, is not being hypocritical about it. He makes these conscious choices and is well-informed and involved in it, and everyone can see that plainly through his actions he demonstrates. Therefore, his opinions on it, his suggestions on it, him advocating for this cause, environmental causes, supporting various Earthshot Prize winners, things like that, it's well respected. It comes across better to the public. The same can be said for Homewards. People have received it really well and respect what he has to say about homelessness because he's knowledgeable, his contributions are seen as valuable, and there is no ulterior motive present. He's putting action with his words, and he's not just pointing at the problem. This is a very different experience than what Harry and Meghan have had. They point at problems in a hopeless, complaining sort of a way, solutions completely absent from the equation, and they don't appear to be very well informed, nor do they seem to put in the work it takes or the time it takes to really understand an issue in order to make progress on things. It leads to the Sussexes' involvements looking more like press opportunities, and it allows the public to discredit any contributions that they make because of those reasons, because of that lack of congruity. People are able to identify ulterior motives when the Sussexes put out a press release or get involved with something. And thus, Harry and the Meg are not well respected in any of these arenas. William has taken the right approach to this and has seen a much more welcoming and positive reception to his documentary series. The Sussexes, however, see a wave of criticism to every project they do because it is so negative, contains exaggerations, contradictions, and lies, because it's just wallowing about problems and complaining from a space of privilege. And if not that, then it's entirely self-focused. And they aren't fully dedicating their platform to just doing good or moving forward conversations about initiatives. Instead, they're using their platform a lot of the time to talk about themselves and try to become celebrities, which they are not. Thanks to his smart strategy, Prince William will also enjoy greater awareness, involvement, and interest in the initiatives that he highlighted in the documentary and those that he supports, like Earthshot, Homewards, and this project to help end homelessness, which is exactly what you would hope for in a project like this and with an initiative like this. These sorts of differences stand out even more when we see the real royals come out and do it right and do it well. It just automatically offers a higher bar that the Sussexes have never even come close to touching. But leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a happy day ahead. I will see you next time. Bye!